So I thought I'd tell you guys how the story of when I got my truck a couple weeks ago. Kind of my own little roadkill adventure. So I've been looking online for a couple weeks for a truck, and I finally found this one. I was kind of hoping for something four-wheel drive, but I wasn't able to find four-wheel drive. Well, I was, but they all wanted a little bit too much for it. But I definitely wanted a manual transmission. So I found a 1968 F250, 4 on the floor, first gear, granny gear, and then, it's kind of like a 3-speed. So we drove the 150 miles down there, got there at about 1 o'clock on Saturday. He works nights, so I had to, time it right. So we get there about 1 o'clock, and he starts her. She starts her.
Today, Junior.
He starts her right up. Just pulled the choke and started right up, pretty much. And he hadn't started it in 2-3 months, so that was a good sign. But he goes to step on the brakes, and there's no brakes, nothing. So I brought brake fluid with me, so I put some in, and we figured out there was a leak. So I was like, all right, no brakes, that's typical roadkill, right? So I have to go to the store and get the things I need to just put a little patch. It had rusted through, right after the master cylinder. Not too far down, so it wasn't like underneath the truck. At least I could get to it pretty easily. So that was nice. So I went and got the stuff, came back, took, I don't know, half an hour. I wasn't really paying attention at the time, but finally got the brake, got that hole fixed, and you had to pump the brakes, but, they kind of worked. Enough for a test drive. So we drove down the road and back, and I was hooked. I liked it. I mean, there's no power steering in there. No power anything, which is great. It's simple. That's what I wanted. I wanted something simple that I could work on. Nothing with any damn computer. That I need to buy diagnostic tools and all this other crap, and just to be able to work on it myself. It's so hard to work on the newer cars. I can do the brakes and change the oil, and that's about it. Getting much more than that, and I just don't have the tools. So we get back from the test drive and notice that there's steam coming out of the freaking hood. So we look under there, and there's a hole in one of the hoses going to the heater core. One of the smaller hoses going to the heater core. So we're like, crap. But I was like, that's fine. I gave him the money for the truck, and he wanted $2,000, but I talked him down. I got her for $1,500. Which isn't bad. She does need floorboards and stuff, and just needs some love. She's an old girl and work truck. She's been worked hard. So anyway, so we put some water in the radiator, and I limp it down to AutoZone. And here's a picture of it sitting behind AutoZone. Actually, it was the first picture I took of her, and so I go in with a piece of the hose, and of course, they don't have that size. I was like, great. But I also brought in a piece. Oh, wait, no. So he cut me off a piece of a hose that was just a little bit smaller, like 4 inches, which would actually fix the piece I took off. And I took it out to the truck, and it fit. It was the next size down, but it fit on the connection. So I was like, screw it. You know, and here's what that looked like. But, you know, so I went back in and I bought I bought more hose. And then I got antifreeze. Came back out, got it all fixed up. You know, no more leak. Me and my daughter, my whole family went down. At this point in time, my wife and two of my kids were at Hobby Lobby messing around, and me and my daughter, my oldest daughter, were working on the truck. So I go and get some gas and meet my wife, and she had just got a phone call, I guess back home, back up here. It was snowing. Everything was ice. The roads were crap. So we decided to say screw it. You know, and we hit a hotel for the night and had a kind of cool family adventure. And so after that, you know, the next day, I was ready to go, you know, full tank of gas, even though the gauge says that's the only gauge that doesn't work. I figured it wouldn't work. I don't know. I just have bad luck with fuel gauges. They never work in my trucks. But anyway, I'll fix it eventually. So we take off in the morning and just go. No more, you know, I checked the oil and everything, and she was a little bit low because there's an oil leak. You know, I added a little bit, and she's good to go. And I drove 150 miles home without a single problem on the way home. Alright, here we go. First drive in the truck. Well, I've already gone about 50 miles, but going home from Ottumwa, Iowa. Speedometer is off a little bit. Radio does not work. Well, I do need to adjust my mirror next time we stop. Alright. Which was nice. You know, my brakes kind of sucked. And that's what the next video is going to be, is phase 1. Is me fixing the brakes and some of the things in the cab here. I also put new window trim, you know, for the door windows and stuff, so they won't rattle, and I've got a little bit of video of that. And then I also redid all the brakes. First I went through the you know, each drum and made sure they were good. I put new pads on the front, new spring set on the front, because one side was missing 2 springs, 1 or 2 springs, and then the back, the pads look brand new on the rear, so I left those pads and just, you know, cleaned everything up. And I did replace the wheel cylinders in the back because one was leaking, so I went ahead and replaced both of them. The wheel cylinders in the front seemed okay. I still might replace them. That's the only thing I didn't replace, because after that I redid all the brake line with copper nickel brake line. And then the next phase, since I did that, I'm going to do a tune-up on the engine. I got to take the intake manifold off because it's leaking from there. You can tell it's leaking from those 2 spots on the front and the back. It's got the FE 360 in it. So, you know, where the cork little part goes on the gasket. Sorry, brain fart. Gasket on the intake manifold, that's where it's leaking. So I'm not going to put those back. I got new gasket, Felpro gaskets for that, and I got new Felpro gaskets for the other things. It's not the head gasket, it's the valve covers. There we go. I got a new gasket for those, because you got to take off the valve covers and take off the rocker arms and take out the push rods just to take off the intake manifold, because they're kind of together on these FE engines is weird. And I got some, I got new spark plugs, wires, cap rotor, fuel filter. I'm going to put a new fuel filter on it. And air filter. Just the normal stuff. I also got a rebuild kit for the carburetor, so I'm going to rebuild the carburetor, which I've never done. So that'd be cool. I've taken apart a couple carburetors, like small ones, but I haven't technically rebuilt one. So that'll be fun. And then there you have it. That's about it. That's the story of me picking up my truck and some of the things I've got for the future. Probably not the best angle ever, but let's try that. Let's go for a little drive. Let's go through all the gears. First, yeah. Second, third, fourth. There you go. Driving the truck.